Hi there, this is Jim Hiles, your financial coach from GoPlan 101 and First Capital. First of all, a great thank you out there for all of our healthcare workers on the front lines and for all of us at home who are complying. So be steady and hang in there. Now let's jump into the topic. So I wrote this quote down because I think it's very important to remember the other side of darkness is light. And if you haven't watched my March 16 video, go to GoPlan 101 and watch that, because the principles I go over in there, particularly if you're thinking about your financial situation, you need to just hear over and over again because they have stood the test of time and will again. And so we're going to be looking at what we need to do to focus not on what's going on the TV and in the media, but what we need to do to now get to the other side, get through this. We understand that things are going to be messy here. And as we recover, we're going to also have to remind ourselves what separates success from failure as we go through it ourselves. We've been through this before. We'll go through it again. Maybe not exactly this, but challenges. And this will happen over and over again in our lives, and we'll have to deal with it in different ways. But as I mentioned in the video then, expect some sweeping changes, some things we've never seen or experienced before. And that's what the CARE Act is about. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into this thing. Stimulus checks, $1,200 per adult, $500 per child dependent. However, there is a phase out, so pay attention to wages and earnings, and basically earnings in excess of $75,000 per individual single filer, or $150,000 for joint filers. You'll be phased out of getting stimulus checks. No-cost testing for COVID-19 tests are now under this CARES Act. We'll also have the opportunity to access funds in different ways, and this is a combination of being able to essentially draw upon a number of resources. The first one I'm going to talk about is employer retirement plans. So for qualified individuals, those who are suffering from the virus, there are penalty-free distributions and delayed tax rules for up to $100,000. You can take $100,000 out and not be subject to the 10% early withdrawal penalty or federal or state income tax withholding. Now, this is not free money. You have to repay it over 3 years, or you'll be taxed on it like any other normal distribution from a retirement plan. But that can take place over a 3-year period. You can actually borrow more from your 401k plan. It's a lesser of $100,000 or 100% of your account balance, and your loan payments are going to be delayed for 1 year. For those of you who are taking money out as a required minimum distribution, we're going to waive those required minimum distributions through this year, 2020. Now, let's look about small businesses. I know we have a lot of small business owners out there, the backbone of the professions that I work with and the corporate environment that I tend to work with. We're going to talk about big business in a moment, but small business loans for payroll, leave, group benefits, mortgage, rent, utilities, and other debts. Look into this one if you run a small business. You don't need collateral necessarily. Most of the situations I've seen for forgiveness, if you meet certain criteria, so pay particular attention to these SBA small business loans. There is a payroll tax credit for employers who hold on to employees. They are eligible for refundable payroll tax credit. There's also an offset of the employer's share of the Social Security taxes paid up to $10,000 on wages per employee. Now, this is going to keep getting heavy like this, so hang in there. Look at these points carefully if you think these are impacting you either way. The bill would extend the time to submit payroll taxes. This applies to the employer portion of self-employment taxes too. The provision requires that the taxes must be paid over the next 2 years. A great deferral idea. Corporations are going to be getting extra time to pay payroll taxes. This applies to the employer portion of self-employment taxes. I had to say that one more time. Here's one that's interesting. Any net operating losses experienced as a business, that net operating loss arising in the tax year beginning in 18, 19, or 20 can now be carried back through your taxes, through your income for the past 5 years. So this gives us an opportunity to kind of take these losses we've been experiencing because of this in recent years and use those losses to offset income in past years. So congratulations to the CPA firms. I wish you luck in figuring out how that's going to work. There's going to be an increased interest expense for business. The amount of interest expense that a business can deduct is now up to 50% of taxable income for 19 and 20. This is obviously one of the things we look at when we borrow money. Next, this going back to more individual student loans. Universities will now have the opportunity to award emergency aid grants without the need calculation. So this is an opportunity for universities to provide some money to students for student loans. There's also a suspension of student loans on the federal level. Payments and collection efforts under the federal loan programs are now without interest through September 30 of 2020. Now, we have an opportunity here to reconsider how we look at student loans. Let's switch over to health savings accounts. Health savings accounts can now be used for telehealth services, over-the-counter medical products, even without those with the prescription, menstrual care products. So these are now expansions to allow for the HSAs, the health savings accounts, to pay for on a tax-advantaged method things that typically weren't done before. The CARE Act provides additional funding for hospitals. There's also revisions to the existing paid leave bill, including the Family and Medical Leave Act and the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So look carefully at the paid leave bill. For those of you who are looking to provide to charities, and we suggest that you do, there's now a better reason perhaps than before from a tax angle to do so. The charitable contributions that you give are now moved what we call above the line on the tax return. We have an opportunity to actually offset income by charitable contributions, dollar for dollar. The Act provides additional funding for food and nutrition assistance programs. Now, there will be corporate bailouts, and there will be other loans and relief provisions for large businesses, including the airline business. The bill did not provide similar assistance to the cruise line industry. There are going to be limits. There are going to be certain actually restrictions that are going to be imposed upon certain highly compensated executives of those corporations. So we'll see some interesting things go on there. There will be, from an individual standpoint, if you're looking at being a rental or even a homeowner, there will be some temporarily bans from landlords to file evictions on tenants, on renters. The ban may also apply to some foreclosures, and there'll be additional options for mortgage forbearance on federally backed mortgage loans. So look in here if you need relief on your mortgages and your rent. And finally, yes, lo and behold, our distillers may save us yet. The bill waives the federal excise tax on any distilled spirit for those that are contained in hand sanitizer products as issued by the FDA. So if you can't make it, you may want to help yourself at home. Hang in there. Again, Jim Hiles, your financial coach and advisor. Please call if you have any questions. My number and information is here. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.